that in the year 2003, the United States government also considered me and appointed me as a visiting scholar, or they call it visiting professor, to the University of Iowa in the United States, where I spent 9 months researching on cutting-edge issues related to comparative law between America and Nigeria. I served in the University of Jos, became a head of department of public law, and also became the dean of the faculty of law. And I happen to be one of the longest serving deans because I served for 6 years, while ordinarily you are supposed to serve for 4. But because of the compelling need, I was prevailed upon to take the university and the faculty to another level. Because during my tenure as the dean of the faculty of law, for the first time, the faculty of law became the third best, the University of Jos became the third best university or faculty in Nigeria, based on NIAL's ranking as at that time. In addition to that, I was able to also work on proposals that led to a grant of $150,000 from the Carnegie Corporation of the US. And that was one of the major breakthroughs we had with Carnegie Corporation, leading to the establishment of an ICT, online legal research for lawyers, in the Faculty of Law, University of Jos. And that was the very first, not only in Nigeria, but in the whole of West Africa. Your Excellency, distinguished senators, I was appointed as a senior advocate of Nigeria in the year 2014, and also appointed as Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration in October 2022. The position I held up to this moment, if Your Excellency, distinguished senators, find me worthy of being appointed to this position, I will have to relinquish that position. And just to say, sir, with your permission, I've noticed that my Vice Chancellor is also here, sir, who was telling me this morning that just wondering how he's going to cope. But this is a higher responsibility. I also was appointed as the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council of Joseph Ayo Babalola University. The mission was to grow the university to become an Ivy institution that will be one of the best in Nigeria. That goal is being achieved. Your Excellency, professional experience, my legal career has been marked by substantial contribution to various facets of law. And I'm a member of the Nigerian Bar Association, International Bar Association, National Association of Law Teachers, and several others. I can see with respect that my CV speak to some of these points. But importantly, sir, I also want to report that I have also been part of the Parliament of Nigeria, the National Assembly. And I have participated severally in some of the very, very important institutional building policies, seminars organized by the National Assembly. Some of which, number one, I was a consultant to the 8th House of Representatives, and I was among those that tinkered and brought experts from all over the world to come and debate the very vociferous petroleum industry bill that had become a cankerworm that no successive parliament could deal with until we bifurcated and make the necessary recommendations. I was also privileged, Your Excellency, distinguished senators, to present the keynote address of the 8th House of Representatives during their second-year anniversary on the topic that is titled The Appraisal of Legislative Agenda of the 8th House of Representatives. And just to also say, with due respect, that there used to be an initiative of the National Assembly. They call them the initiatives. They had a dean. I had also presented a paper sometime in 2008 on politics and governance, the challenge of electoral reform. I was a member of the 8th House of Representative Committee on Law Reform, where I worked on in collaboration with some experts put together by the National Assembly to review and to reform over 500 legislations that then members picked up and sponsored as individual bills that eventually led to the amendment of some of those laws. I have also assisted in the harmonization of the 2018 Electoral Act under the auspices of NILS, now NIALS, where we try to harmonize the position of Senate as well as the House of Representatives. And after the harmonization, the bill was vetoed by the former president because it was considered to be very close to the election as at that time. Your Excellency, for now, that is the brief about who am I. We have further details in my CV. I've been board members, governing council members, but I don't want to bore you with all those details. I'm very grateful for this honor, sir.
The floor is open. Deputy Senate President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I and my distinguished colleagues. First of all, let me congratulate the nominee for being so nominated by Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, I spent the whole of yesterday reading through this resume. And what I discovered is that the nominee has a wonderful pedigree, wonderful track record as contained in this document to occupy this office. And I went on to follow up with trying to substantiate, make sure that what I read, all what is contained here, are true. And I asked questions, talked to some of the lecturers in the university. This is my friend. And everything was confirmed to be true. So he has the necessary track record and pedigree to my judgment. But I want to ask a question. INEC has, or everybody think of that, and it's true, that the ability of INEC to conduct credible elections, the ability, independence of INEC is sine qua non to achieving that. Independence for INEC is sine qua non to making sure that it has the ability to conduct free and fair elections. Now, going by your wonderful pedigree, showing that you are a man of integrity, someone who has the capability to occupy this office, how will you bring this to bear in making sure that your operations, your operational decisions, your policy decisions are not influenced by external forces? Please, just give me step-by-step description on how you can achieve this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Every question must be concise. Only the Deputy Senate President has the latitude to ask extended questions. So, Prof, you have a paper? You have to note so that you can take as many questions as possible before you answer. But because of the person or the Deputy Senate President, please proceed and answer.
I'm very grateful, Mr. Senate President, sir, for this question from the DSP, sir. INEC, under the Constitution, Section 155, is an independent body. And it is one of the commissions that is on first line charge. But one of the problems we've had with independence on its own and autonomy has to do with the practicality in terms of finances. I have not taken over to know the nitty-gritties, but I want to say from past experience, although it has been legislated that funds should be released at least a year before the election, but you find out that this does not come in time, and then the envelope system still made the institution to be constrained financially. And then there's sometimes what we call ignorance of authority and power. The Constitution has granted you autonomy, but it's possible you are even ignorant of the autonomy. So we will look at the spirit and the letters of the Constitution, as well as the laws made by the National Assembly, to use our knowledge to ensure that INEC is independent. And we'll have an audit to see what are those factors, and we shall deal with them accordingly. I can give that assurance, Excellency.
Distinguished Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, and Mr. Nominee. For me, Mr. President, where you come from matters to me. Your pedigree, your antecedents also matter to me. I must confess that you have a very intimidating resume. I want to ask, you have indicated here most of the areas and activities that you have engaged in for the first time. For the first time. And I want to say that, as they say, you have satisfied the requirements
Use your
in character.
Use your campaign voice. Let's ask questions before conclusion.
Okay. You have satisfied, as they say, both in character and learning, the requirements for the award of the numerous degrees that you have now. One of the very critical things or concerns of Nigerians, and indeed the international community, is the integrity of elections. Which could make or mar democracy. I want to ask, with your wealth of experience, can you share with us what accountability mechanisms that you will expand or introduce into our electoral process to allay these concerns? Mr. President, that is my question.
Distinguished Senator Lalong.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Once again, Simon Lalong, representing Plateau South, and also Plateau State, where you are coming from. Chairman, Committee on INEC and Electoral Matters. Prof, I won't call it intimidating resume, but exemplary resume. Because you were one time, you were my dean. You supervised my dissertation. You are a great sir. No, it's not disqualified. I was a student, ordinary student.
Senator,
Beavers.
Senator Lalong, I didn't hear you well.
Sir, I said in the course of my studies, I also went through him.
You went
when
through
I
him?
was reading master's degree. But I didn't go to University of Jos. I went to ABU and came back, did master's. I met him briefly. I saw him briefly there as a dean. He was the dean.
Huh?
He was the dean. So he didn't supervise me directly. He was the dean.
Senator Lalong,
Sir.
don't please do not bias the minds of members. Why I'm saying this is, if you went through him,
yes,
or you went under him, however you did, all we want to do, from what you are saying, you want to attest to his character.
Yes, sir.
So just say, I attest to his character, then you sit down. Others can ask questions.
Thank you. Yes, Prof. There's a very important thing. As a professor of evidence, one of the thorny issues that came up in the last election was the issue of beavers and IREF platform, which were game changers. But we also saw operational challenges in the last elections. Given your understanding of the terrain, how do you intend to ensure these technologies function optimally going forward? That's my question, Mr. President.
Prof, can they take more questions? Or you want to answer those two? Yeah?
I leave it to your discretion.
You take more questions.
Very well, sir.
Because I noticed that almost the entire Senate is eager to ask you questions. And they all represent senatorial districts and constituencies. And the questions they are asking you are the concerns of Nigerians, of their constituents. Because of the fact that they were participants in the various elections. So they are very familiar. And all they want to know is whether things will change. So he's saying that the beavers and the IRF were meant to be game changers. But instead, in some instances, they presented difficulties and problems that could not be solved by the ordinary people. So if you become the national chairman of INEC, what do you hope to do? But that is very technical. I think you should get into the office, study it, study the flaws, and from there, you will know what to do. But if he has an answer, okay, based on the fact that you have been working with us from the House of Representatives, so you have an idea. So proceed to answer.
Very well, sir. Your Excellency, distinguished senators, the purpose of introducing beavers and IREF was to ensure the integrity of the election. And that is the purpose of technology all over the world. I believe what happened in 2023, which was subsumed as a glitch, before we went into the election, my own understanding and based on the review of the decisions of Supreme Court, we found that there was no clarity as to the purpose of IREF. Not until the Supreme Court came out to say that IREF was not an electronic collation system. And that position was not properly brought out before the election. The INEC was supposed to be a safeguard for comparison, because the laws made by this distinguished Senate did not do away with manual collation. But however, IREF was supposed to provide some guarantees and checks and balances. But owing to the issues of glitches, which in simple time, I understand as improper configuration, especially during the presidential election, that eroded the confidence of so many people. So, His Excellency the Senate President said, I have to audit the system if I'm given the opportunity to see what is actually wrong and whether we have what it takes as it is now. Because it is not just the INEC responsibility alone. You have the other agencies like NCC, NIMC, and the service providers that will have to work together to ensure that we give Nigerians a technology that everybody will be happy about. And I want to believe that the question of the minority leadership is also similar to that. There would definitely be an audit of what the system we are meeting, and especially of the logistic of the election itself, and ensure that the proper strategy is put in place. We all know the problem. So we'll find a proper strategy to be able to confront those problems headlong. I give one example. Logistic problem. We rely on third-party logistics to transport sensitive election materials. Some of the vehicles, when you see them, they are old. And they don't even go far. And when they drop the materials, they don't even remain to bring back. So when they abandon the voting and the results, and collation is made or to transport, they now have to be hiring machines and so. So we need to take it serious and ensure, even if INEC has to go into some form of logistic on its own, to ensure that aspect. I'm just giving one example that I know. Thank you, sir.
So, Prof, you are saying that when they drop the materials at the various units, they hardly come back to pick the results.
In some cases.
So some of our results must have been forgotten.
The results are not forgotten, sir. But you find the presiding officer at risk that as soon as the election is over, they wait for so long and they have to make their own arrangement to get to the collation center. In the process, they get there very late. And so sometimes you get there, with due respect, sir, my wife was returning, was it a collation officer? I had to bring a generator to help them. There was no light. So logistics waste time, and those facilities are not there. If we want to do it, let's do it well. So we'll provide the necessary transport logistic for that purpose.
Senator Yari. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. President of the Senate, distinguished colleagues. Prof, congratulations for this tax that coming out of you. More especially where we're heading to the next 1.5 years. My question is on the budget. utilization, and maybe to explain to the Senate how transparently we will be, more especially during the upcoming major election. The budget of INEC, if you look at it, election after election, is not growing like inflation. Maybe the inflation of this year may be 18%. It will grow by next maybe with 1.0% or 0.5%. But the INEC budget is grown by like double. So how do you intend to transparently, judiciously utilize, apply the funds we're going to approve to you for the major election? Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Goje.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Mohammed Anjimo Goje, presenting Gombe Central, Gombe State. Mr. Nominee, I also join my colleagues in congratulating you and wishing you sounding success in this very difficult job. There are these recurring accusations against the role of the security agencies during elections, even though we know that we can't do elections without them. The security agencies are the necessary partners with the success and progress of elections, but there's this widespread belief that they collude in trying to make things difficult, particularly for some people some parties or people that they don't like, to the extent of making people to see the elections as not really transparent. They intimidate and collude in altering results or pushing away people from elections. Some people in some polling stations, you find that, especially during collection centers, you find that they cordon off the place, they allow those they want to allow in, they prevent those they don't want to be inside the collection centers. As the chairman of ANEC, how do you now handle this issue of security agencies so as to ensure the integrity of the elections, that all parties will be satisfied with the performance of ANEC? Thank you.
Senator, former Speaker, former Governor, Tambua.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, as a nominee, I am Amin Waziri Tambua. I represent Sokoto South Senatorial District. Mr. Nominee, I wish you well, and I reserve the congratulations until you serve your tenure. And I hope and pray that you'll be able to successfully carry out your duty. And at that point, I'll come home and congratulate you. Having gone through your resume and knowing you personally, I want to know your views on areas that you think require amendment in the Electoral Act as it is today that will improve on the outcomes of elections and the integrity of elections in Nigeria. I believe that you have worked on the Electoral Act before, and you have experience, you should be able to highlight these areas so that may guide eventually what we are going to do here in the amendment of the Electoral Act. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Nengi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Abdul Ningi, and I represent Bauchi Central of Bauchi State. Let me join the Senate President in welcoming you, Professor Josh. Let me begin by saying you were born in 1967. That makes you a middle-aged person. That tells you that your golden years is still ahead of you. This position that you've been nominated for, you have now become the attention of Nigeria and the international community. And looking at your resume, in particular on page 11, academic professional awards, you mentioned Richard Akinjide for Best Overall Student of 1987, late Gali Brown Peterside for the Best Overall Law Student, University of Jos Prize for the Best Overall Student, Fulbright Scholarship, visiting researcher at the University of Iowa, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and Dr. Teslim Award of Meritorious Service. The agency that you are about to take over is not a stranger to professors. Professor Henry Wosu, Professor Jega, and Professor Yakubu, Professor Iwu, and so on and so forth. What that tells you and tells Nigeria, the issue is not about academic excellence. It has to do with someone's upbringing, his forthrightness, his fairness, and his patriotism, and of course, the love of this country. As a member of electoral committee, courtesy of the Senate, we have traversed this country. And one of the highlights of our public interaction is the demand for transmissions of results real time. And that encapsulates a lot of logistics, but more particularly about the mindset of the leader of that agency. What do you understand by transmission of results real times? And do you think the Nigerians think that this is tenable, this is achievable? What is your position about transmission of the real times? Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Oju Zakalo.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Oji Uzokalo. I represent Abia North of Abia State Senatorial District. Mr. President, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Nominee, thank you for coming, and my question will be very brief to you because you are resuming. For you, you say yes, and I was surprised. But knowing you as a professor, let me go straight to the question. One persistent challenge that have been of late is the deployment of materials and personnel. Knowing the vastness of our nation and the complexity of the country, tell us, what strategy will you bring to manage the complexity of the country, especially on the areas that have bad terrains and security challenges. These areas are areas that you must not allow any Nigeria to be disenfranchised because they have security challenge or because people will tell you, oh, that place is hilly, that place is far. What is your strategy? Is threatening to give free, fair, and just election that will be acceptable by all Nigerians. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Ositangu.
Thank you, Mr. President and my colleagues. My name is Ositangu Ugu. I represent Enugu West. Prof, I congratulate you, but I'm sure you have had enough accolades. So I'll go straight to the question. No matter how beautiful our electoral policies and procedures are, the integrity of the people who carry out this election matters. Now I'm going to talk about the integrity of the people who either are INEC staff or ad hoc staff, who are going to be the people who conduct these elections. Prof, how are you going to set up an internal mechanism that is going to deter the people conducting elections from compromising? How are you going to prevent it? And what mechanism are you going to put in place to detect when such compromises occur? And finally, how are you going to ensure that there is adequate punishment, maybe working with the National Assembly, to prosecute those who are entrusted with the responsibility to conduct the election, but who goes back to compromise the election? Thank you very much.
Very good question. I wish it came last so that you can reassure all Nigerians. But it's a very good question. Very, very good question. Because Prof can only administer, but the real nitty-gritty is with those who are vested with the responsibility of going to the nooks and crannies of the nation. What they do and bring back can either mar his administration or promote his administration. So, Prof, it's at that stage, I think you should answer together with the other questions so far asked.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Senate President, distinguished senators. May I respond by taking the last question first? I think that is a major concern. That is the question of Senator Osita. It's a major concern of everybody, because one of the things that we have to do is to work out an internal mechanism that we can use to trail the behavior of humans. In the first place, I'm taking this position on trust, and the people who I'm going to work with, they must also appreciate the fact that they are there on trust, and because you have made the law, that should be done. So one of the ways is to set up an ethical committee so that you can have an audit of what has happened, because there have been several cases that have been reported and nothing were done. Some have been taken to court, like in Bayelsa State, there were some cases like that, and I believe in Adamawa, where some people were prosecuted and even convicted. So we are going to follow through and pursue that course. And also to say that maybe we are also going to work the National Assembly, because there will be need for some legislative intervention in some cases. For instance, there is a need for an electoral offenses commission that will be able to investigate. INEC does not really have the capacity presently. You investigate, you detect, investigate, and then prosecute. And strengthening the internal disciplinary procedure, following due process, to ensure that those that are involved in such misconduct are brought to book. Even if we need to use forensic to do that. And we also hope to probably see, well, I have not gotten there, but we have factored it as part of the likely challenges we are going to confront. We can introduce a whistleblowing policy too that will enable people to detect and expose such practices so that it can be dealt with. If I now go to distinguished Senator Uzokalu, deployment of materials, the complexity of the country, the issue of security. I want to say that the issue of security is a major challenge. But at the same time, it can be confronted headlong. I know there's a joint committee on election security. So one of the things we have to do is to work with that committee and see how we can strengthen security in those challenge areas. Additionally, we can also invest more on logistics to ensure that every part of Nigeria we can penetrate. Even if we have to use drones or whatever, with necessary safeguards to ensure that those materials get to those places, because no voter will be left behind. And that will be one of our policies. Now, also addressing Senator Ningi's question, participation and love for Nigeria, there's going to be aggressive voters education and civic education, so that INEC will perform that role under Section 2 of the Act, which is a major responsibility to ensure that people are educated. You build capacity not just of your staff, of all the election stakeholders, including the political parties, the members of political parties, the masses, as well as technocrats and elites. So we will embark on aggressive civic education and build capacity to be able to confront those challenges. On the issue of transmission of real time, I was looking at the amendment to the Electoral Act. We are going to look at what it is as it is now. Thankfully, it's not been concluded. So if I'm giving the nod, I will have the opportunity to make my own input and also to look at the decision of courts and see how that issue can be addressed. I spoke to it earlier on that nobody seemed to even understand what it was. And a lot of people felt it was another collation system. But Supreme Court said it was not. So we just need to look at it and see what is on ground. So when we get there, we'll see what is on ground, the infrastructure, and how best to approach it. Because we understand the fact that it can add credibility to our election. For instance, the timeline is in the Constitution. But apart from that, there are even inconsistent timeline provisions within the Act itself. Because you set some timelines which is in contradiction with another provisions on timeline. So all those issues will have to be streamlined and ensure that there are no ambiguities. And then we have election litigation. So we are going to see how an election is credible so that the loser will even come and congratulate the winner and say you won fairly and well. So if we can do that, it's just like a judge convicting a person, sentencing him to death, and say, well done, because I believe I've got injustice. And the distinguished Senator Oje, on issue of security, I think I've spoken to that, sir, that we will look into it. I don't have the facts now, but I know there's a joint action committee which I co-chair, and then we'll see how best to address the issue of security as far as election materials are concerned. And finally, distinguished Senator Yari, thank you for your question, sir. I want to say that you have enough laws. This Parliament, National Assembly, have established, enacted laws for the purposes of ensured proper utilization of funds, and that is the Procurement Act and the Finance Act. So those laws that have been enacted will be enforced strictly in order to ensure that funding of the Commission are utilized for the purpose for which they have been given. And if there are opportunities to save funds, to save costs, we shall also do that. Thank you, sir. Distinguished Your Excellency, sir, the Senate President.
Distinguished colleagues, is it the view of the Senate that you could sit down and write the questions before going back to the microphone? Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You see the way they are looking forward to your coming. They all love you.
Thank you, sir.
So take a seat, and then as they ask questions, you write them down, and then you now come to the microphone. Because we've looked at your resume. You are a very fit and proper person, and then you don't have any medical issues, but we don't want any. We've not finished our hospital, so we don't want any mishap. So once in a while, you sit down like that, write the questions. When you are ready, you signify and come back to the microphone. So within that period, you can drink water. You are allowed. The Civil Senator Siraki Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my dear colleagues. Henry Siraki Dixon, Bayelsa West. Mr. President, I have a short question and then a comment. And the question is, Mr. Nominee, seated here as senators of the Federal Republic, with what has been said or written or speculated about, I believe that for the sake of informing the generality of Nigerians, I must ask you to answer directly and positively whether you were in fact a part of the president's legal team as alleged or speculated about, whether in any way, shape, or form you were part of the president's defense or legal team arising from litigations in the last presidential election. That is the question. Then, on the comment, I agree completely with the premise on which my good friend and colleague, Senator Ningi, the premise upon which he made his comments, which is that INEC, right from the first indigenous chairman, Esua, in the 50s till date, so many professors like you have been appointed. So many jurists have been appointed. And so, being a professor speaks to your scholarship. In your own case, what is, for me, giving you some level of comfort is the additional fact that you are, in addition to being a professor of law, you are a senior advocate of Nigeria. And this is the first time a senior advocate, in addition to being a professor, The two combined is being nominated for this office. Why I say I agree with Ningi is because from the resume of your predecessors, there's no lack of scholarship or intellectual capacity or prowess in them at all. The issue has been, as he rightly said, integrity, patriotism, and above all, courage to do the right thing, capacity to be fair. Most of them are first-class scholars. You, at your age, have invested with this responsibility to make Nigeria proud. And look at our neighboring country, Ghana. The general elections they conduct. The last one specifically, the presidential election, no litigation. Even before the final vote, the tally was counted, the sitting vice president, who was candidate of the ruling party, called President Mahama now in office, considered defeat. So even within our West African sub-region, there's no doubt that we are clearly not acting as the giants of Africa when it comes to electoral integrity. So my comment will be,
question.
What will you do differently to write your name in gold to ensure that the results that will be announced will reflect the will of the people, so that everybody will congratulate one another and go and prepare for the next election. That way, Nigeria will renew its leadership and will reinforce our national identity and pride. Elections should not bring us down or make us look small or divide us. And you are aware of the onerous responsibility that history beckons on you. What would you do differently? But like I said earlier, use this opportunity to address the issues that have been speculated, rightly or wrongly, so that you can from now build a foundation of integrity and confidence on the people. Were you a part of the president's legal team or no? Thank you.
Well, I would have said, if you had spoken without asking question and a mischievous question, it would have looked as if you are no longer in opposition. But when you mentioned Ghana and other West African countries, they actually borrowed from Nigeria. You are from Bayelsa State, representing a section of Bayelsa. Recall that when the last election was done, even before the final announcement, the then president, Jonathan, who was from Bayelsa, congratulated President Buhari, even before the final election was done. Clearly, and I'm also aware that in 2007, the elections were not very good. That even the person who won came out and said, I must reform the electoral system. And that was late President Yaradua. May his soul rest in peace. He said to himself, and by the time he finished, in 2011, when I contested for second term as a governor, I can tell it was much better. The litigations were less than 30% of what we had in 2007. So I know that as the election improves, not just the participants have confidence to congratulate their opponents. So that's what they are telling him. He should go and he should conduct where what? Where what? At that time, PDP was not torn into shreds. No, Senator Ningi, at that time, the PDP was not torn into shreds. But there's no human being that is sane today that can even go to such a platform, because you are going straight into litigation. You are going straight into litigation. So let us not discuss with the incoming chairman of INEC as if we are giving him a clue, because you are going straight into litigations. Who is going to sign your form? Sabi Yao.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Joash Amupitan. I represent Zamfara Senatorial District. Mr. Nominee, you have all it takes to be the chairman of INEC. But during your presentation, there was one word you mentioned which piqued my concerns. And I felt I should seek more clarification on that very word. And that is mentorship. You made mention that you were in the service, that is National Youth Service, when a mentor made you to become a lecturer. And by your appearance, when you are saying that, I realize you very much appreciate mentorship. Professor, there is that need for you to please, for the sake of other Nigerians that are watching, to clarify more on this mentorship. Because my fear is that you may, in trying to over-appreciate mentorship, cause some disturbance in your work. Another thing I want to draw the attention of is that of your specialization. You specialized in law of evidence. That is a very, very good one for somebody who is going to be the INEC chairman, because we should be conscious that we should have evidence before we go to the courts. So that will be a very good one for this country, and it will reduce the number of court cases that are likely to spring off after the election. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Sabi Yao. What you didn't add is that is he going to advise us in the Electoral Act amendment to ensure that there is no presumption of regularity in anything that INEC does? Because it is a presumption that INEC is right that brings about injustice when INEC is wrong. You understand what I'm saying? Because that's part of what we must look at, whether to amend it or otherwise. In the court, it is presumed that once INEC announces result, then INEC is right. But when INEC announces the wrong result as a result of maybe logistic problems or compromise, I don't think that INEC is right. You understand? Yes, so the law should not be that INEC is right. I believe that INEC should be held responsible and accountable to Nigerians where INEC is wrong. So, and then you're also asking him, how are you going to do away with the influence of mentors? Because in politics, it's simple. When you go wrong, your mentor becomes your tormentor.
I expect Your Excellency, the Senate President, to allow...
but you didn't hear what I said.
I do understand what
I understand. You made a very good point. That how is he going to do away with the influence of mentors? Isn't it?
Right.
Because in politics, we know what to do. That when you go wrong, your mentor becomes your tormentor. On that note, Senator Walada, ask your question, then he can signify whether he wants to answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, sitting as chair. I am Senator Ahmed Wadada Aliyu Sarkin Yakin Kefi Magajin Dangin Lafia, and I represent Nasarawa West Senatorial District of Nasarawa State. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Mr. Nominee, you have a very encouraging.
Then the last one, our people in diaspora. How do you deploy your mercenaries to capture them? Thank you very much.
Prof.
Distinguished senators, maybe I should just start with the distinguished senator that spoke last. On the participation of women, persons with disability, in line with the Affirmation Act, action, which is even an international concern, I believe that the time is ripe for that. The policy, regulations, and law must be put together properly for that purpose. And that was why I said there are instances when we notice necessities like that, we will require and request for legislative intervention so that the necessary details will have to be encapsulated in the laws that is made by the National Assembly. The problem we have generally is the problem of data. And with NIMSI and INEC working together, we should be able to work out something, especially for persons with disability. But whatever it is, the policy, regulation, and then the law from the National Assembly will be very, very necessary. May I now respectfully address the question raised by Senator Mangunu, the Chief Whip, the conduct of local government elections. This has been debated widely by the various state independent National Electoral Commission. And the view of most people is that that power should be transferred to INEC because of what has happened or is happening to the election into the various area councils in Abuja. Of course, there are overlap provisions that those states must use the voters' register compiled by INEC. But one of the concerns is that, is it not going to add another burden on INEC? Because if you are going to conduct election into 774 local government, apart from what we already have now, until we get there to look at the logistics and the infrastructure of doing that. So it's been long debated that there's a need for that issue to be reviewed. So we will look at it, and it's not something that I may be able to provide an answer for. Let me also talk about voters' apathy. There's a need for voters' education. And that is one of the mandates of INEC. So what I believe is that we will do something that is beyond what is being done presently by even having what I would call modules of education for voters. We can have a basic course that can be downloaded in various languages, even on the handset. And then we'll conduct various capacity training so as to educate the voters and also to preach patriotism. Because some of the problems we have, I am very enthused with what I've seen here, that the APC members are relating very well. That is the essence of it. That what should be of overriding factor for everybody is the country itself, and then the need for patriotism. So we will even think of introducing voters' education at the primary school level, so that it will be part of the upbringing of a person, so that patriotism will be preached into that person, and the need for participation. I also have the question relating to independence raised by distinguished Senator Wadata, I want to say that it's a delicate issue, but the Constitution says INEC must be independent. So we will leverage on that constitutional flavor to ensure that we perform our responsibilities independently, and Nigeria will be proud of it. Hopefully, I have been told that there's an election coming forward very soon, and that will be a test case for us to see how best the election can be credible. If elections are credible, then it will be so easy to regain confidence of the people and get the voters back to come and vote. We also talk about whether I was part of the presidential election team. I have also read it, and it is very simple to answer because you cannot be part of a team, a legal team. In fact, that I led the legal team. The law reports on those cases have been out. And even when I was coming, I decided to have certified true copies of the counsel that appeared. I did not appear in the presidential election tribunal and at the Supreme Court.
So you never represented Peter Obi or PDP?
I was not part of it.
Okay, so
I was not part of it.
So that will give us comfort.
I was not.
That will give us comfort.
I was not part of it.
We thought he was representing the opposition. But now that he has cleared that he was not part of it, I think we should, that will give us comfort. So that issue is hereby deleted. Please proceed.
Okay, on the issue of mentorship raised by Senator Yao, I spoke of mentorship in relation to my teacher who ensured that I was brought in to teach. And usually, as a teacher, you mentor your student. So I was just appreciating the fact that that is the normal mentoring, bringing up, developing capacity, educating, and ensuring that you fit in within the society as you are expected to function. I'm quite aware that I'm going to an institution that I must act fairly, elections must be credible, and I must be neutral. So that is at the back of my mind. And so I don't know the concept, the way the mentorship is taken, but it was situated within what happened that, I had somebody who was interested in mentoring me. When you are mentoring somebody, that does not mean you can also not disagree. So mentorship is not going to compromise myself, my principle, and my standards. I believe that I have answered most of the questions that are raised here.
Thank you. So you can take your seat while others ask more questions.
Well, sir.
And on that issue of mentorship, he has answered it. Because all of us are mentors, one way or the other, before we came to where we are. Distinguished Senator Shehu Buba. But let Senator Shumole finish. Then after that, you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator OUK, you have spoken. You have spoken. No, the mood of the Senate is that every senator here is going to face election. So for me, as the Senate President, I don't mind what time we finish here. I don't want any question to be left unanswered in the minds of Nigerians.
Oh, very good.
You notice he has cleared all the areas that people were concerned about. You understand? And his integrity is not in doubt. So before we go into any aspect of clearance, please indulge me to allow my colleagues to bring out whatever is in their minds. Please. Please. Even if it's 30 seconds, let everybody have an opportunity to say a word. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Additionally, I want to thank you for
reminding my dear brother that there are areas we are leading and we too to run down ourselves. When you reminded him that in this country, a president considered defeat. He didn't start from Ghana. It's important that we keep our records. I'm happy that you did that.
Thank you.
The second is that going through the CV, fine. And my friend also said because of the SAN thing, that makes it different. I'm not too sure. I think what makes the difference is that you have been involved with all the efforts, or some of the efforts, to reform the Electoral Act in a way that will be more transparent and will give Nigerians greater confidence in the electoral process. That, for me, that your involvement as an independent, as a Nigerian, with the knowledge of law, that, for me, makes you outstanding compared to those who are not lawyers who have been there before. And I think even those ones, they deserve some commendation. So between the do or die president and the one that said the blood of a Nigerian is not worth his office, we have made some progress. That said, you mentioned that you were part of those who drafted the law, amended the Electoral Act, which former, now late President Muhammadu Buhari declined to accept. For the benefit of hindsight now, if you were to look at that law, does it merit the accent of the president? And if so, why? What were the new innovations that were in that act that was vetoed? The use of lecturers. Your predecessors introduced the use of lecturers as collation officers. And I think it was based on some assumption that to be an academic, as people from ivory towers, you will be free from the day-to-day biases of the ordinary man. From what we have seen, including the fact that in Edo State, 1 or 2 lecturers have been convicted for changing 100 to 1,100. And this person has a doctorate degree. So given some of the evidences that you have reviewed in court, even if you were not involved in those cases, but you review superior court decisions, do you still hold the view that you will continue with this tradition in the face of the current evidence? Last one, an experience we had in Edo State. Because the Senate President said we should speak from our own experiences, where the chairman of a political party, a party that is dying now, his wife was a director or heading ICT unit of INEC in a state, and the husband being PDP, being chairman of a party, but if the truth be told, being PDP wife, the wife of PDP chairman, the husband was always boasting that the wife will supply information that will enable them deal with the issue of accreditation. Will you be able, as you have said, as you have assured us earlier, in course of your doing audit and review of what has happened, make a policy that seeks to say that if you are a spouse of a politician, you cannot be given appointment, particularly a sensitive appointment in INEC, so that it doesn't become a family affair. That is the last point I'd like to make. Otherwise, from all that you have said, your comportment, the way you present your issues, I am clear that you are mentally allowed to deal with all the issues. The only mistake you made, which I mentioned to my people here, we were gossiping, where you seek to compare just weather with the English weather. Just weather is perfect, English weather is not. If they say you are like an English weather, it means you are not reliable. English weather is not as good as just weather.
Thank you, thank you. Senator Shehu Buba.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Shehu Buba, representing good people of Bauchi South. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the nominee let me first of all congratulate you. And going through the resume of the nominee, I am confident the nominee is equal to the task to do the job. And I have listened carefully to the questions posed to the nominee. I earlier planned to ask 2 questions, but the questions is being asked by some of my colleagues, and I am confident that the nominee have judiciously answered the questions. In view of that, Mr. Senate President, distinguished colleagues, we've been deliberating on the nominee for almost 2 hours, and I can see the mood of the Senate. Mr. President, I believe the nominee have done justice to almost all the questions asked him in these chambers. With the permission of Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, if the nominee could be allowed to answer these questions and then take a bow and take the leave of the Senate. Thank you.
Well, it wasn't really a motion. So because of that, Senator Victor Ome, you may wish to say a word before you depart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very grateful.
Was it a motion?
Yeah,
I'm grateful.
Sorry.
Yes, it's a motion.
Motion?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
It's a motion.
SP told us to ask questions.
It's a
Allow us
motion.
to control. Yes.
If it's a motion, any seconder?
I have your permission. You have recognized me to speak.
No. I thought it was a suggestion.
No.
It's a motion.
We're asking questions.
It's a motion.
And they went to motion.
Is it a motion?
It's a motion.
Yes.
No, what I'm saying.
Mr. President.
I'm obligated to take motions.
No.
So if Senator Shehu Boba move a motion,
yes,
I would like to ask: is there any seconder?
No, Mr. President.
Yes.
No, they're overruling you. You said you will give us time to speak. You cannot do that. You are the presiding officer.
So the distinguished Senator Shehu Boba, you may wish to change it from motion to suggestion.
No, suggestion. No, sir. This is a motion. It's not a suggestion, sir. It's a motion, sir, not a suggestion.
Mr. President,
it's a motion.
You cannot do that.
This is a motion.
You've already recognized me to ask
yes, sir, it's a motion.
Mr. President, you're giving me.
This is a motion. This is a motion.
Mr. President had said that everybody will speak. No matter the time we conclude.
So is there any seconder?
Yes, this is a motion.
Mr. President.
Senator.
It's a motion.
Senator Ome.
Yes, Excellency.
DSP.
Senator Ome.
Yes, thank you.
Senator Ome.
Motion. Yeah, it's a motion.
If you,
Mr. President.
No, sorry. Let's finish with Senator Shehu Boba.
Yes, sir.
Are you moving a counter motion?
But sir, you have to rule on this motion first.
Motion. We're asking questions.
Sir, you have to rule on this motion.
We expect you to ask questions. You gave the direction, Mr. President. You gave the direction, Mr. President. You should ask questions.
Yes.
Let's do 2 minutes.
There's a motion.
2 minutes.
Yes.
They should not spoil this screening. Mr. President, don't allow them to spoil the screening.
Yes.
Don't allow them to mess up the screening.
This is a motion.
Don't allow them to mess up the exercise. Yes.
If
I move the doesn't want to
Any seconder?
what is it?
sorry, Senator Ome, we have our procedures. We have our procedures.
Yes.
I'm guided by the procedures. If there is a motion on ground, I must ask if there is a seconder. So if there is a seconder, can you indicate?
Yes.
Senator Issa Jibrin.
Mr. President, point of order.
You're not hearing me.
Point of order. Order 42.
Yes, point of order.
Order 42.
Order 42.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, point of order on privilege. 42.
Come.
Calm down.
Why should they cut us off? Two more questions, sir. You close.
Distinguished Senator Victor Ome, you know I have a lot of respect for you.
Thank you.
But I have more respect for the rules of the Senate.
There's a point of order too.
The rule of the Senate is that there is a motion on ground. And if there is a motion, on ground, please. Senator Olamilekan, there is a motion on ground. You want to second the motion?
Mr. President, very distinguished colleague, Mr. President, very distinguished colleague, I am seconding this motion.
With amendment?
Hello?
With amendment?
Mr. President, I don't think there is any amendment. The motion is so direct that we should allow the nominee who have done excellently well in addressing all questions that have been put forward to him, ranging from, for over 2 hours, he has been speaking to the Nigerian Senate. And I feel that that motion is in order, that we allow the nominee to take a bow and go. I so second, Mr. President.
Amendment.
Distinguished colleagues.
Amendment to the motion.
Colleagues. Distinguished colleagues.
Why?
I want to just do an amendment. I want to, just before I put the question, because a motion has been moved and seconded, and despite my personal feelings, I must respect the rules of this institution. Voters' registration exercise. As of now, all the registered voters online must move to the headquarters of each local government area to do their thumb printing and capturing before the final voters' cards are issued to them. Now, an elder statesman, the Senator Farahons, sent this. I just want to read it to you. That the movements to each local government headquarters to line up are becoming very cumbersome and very expensive on these would-be voters. So he's suggesting to the incoming INEC chairman, if cleared by this hollow chamber, that would he consider a situation where he could decentralize the machines to the wards to go and capture those people and capture their thumb printings to avoid movements from place to place and the logistics of those movements and save the people from unnecessary suffering. Incoming INEC chairman, what this is it. Don't worry. The motion was that we should allow you to answer the questions that have been asked before you go. And then from there you take a bow. That's what that is the motion. The motion did not say you should go. The motion says that we should allow you to answer the question so far asked before you go. So I'm going to put the question. It doesn't mean the motion will pass. So just watch how democracy plays out. Please sit down. Now, those in support that he be allowed to answer the few questions that are still pending, and thereafter take a bow and go. Say aye. Those against that he be allowed to answer the few questions already asked and take a bow and go. In other words, he should stand and continue to answer more questions. Say nay. See? Support that he be allowed to answer the questions already asked and then take a bow and take leave of the Senate. Say aye. Those again say nay. Even a deaf man will know that the eyes have it.
Point of order.
Distinguished colleagues.
Point of order.
Distinguished colleagues, I'll add a proviso. The proviso will be that anybody who has not asked questions should put it in writing. Before the nominee departs from here, we'll hand it over to him. So he'll go and use it as a working document. The ayes have it. Answer the questions already asked and thereafter take a bow and leave.
Your Excellency, the Senate President, distinguished members, thank you very much once again for this opportunity. I want to start with the last question, which was framed for the Senate President. That has to do with the registration and thumb printing at the local government. Beyond just decentralizing, I want to look at a situation where we can even use technology to eliminate some of those encumbrances that have been encountered in relation to the voters' registration. So if we have a supportive technology, we'll be able to deal with that. But if there are no technologies for that, we can't talk of decentralizing. That's not a problem, but we can use technology to avoid all these problems. Now, adverting to the question raised by distinguished Senator Oshimole, that whether the spouse of a party official will continue to function and hold sensitive position in INEC, or whether it should even hold any position at all. I want to say that, consistent with the principle of natural justice, where there is likelihood of bias, not just that there is bias, likelihood, it can be flagged to INEC, and INEC would take appropriate decision on that. The issue of whether we should continue to use lecturers or university dons for collation, I want to, with respect, say I may not be in a position to look at the various referendum and reports of the elections and whether we have options. What are the options? You weigh it and then you will be able to come to a decision. If we have a better option, we can pursue that. I believe that those are the two issues that are outstanding. Okay, about the 2018 electoral amendment, I want to say that most of the issues that were raised there.
Prof, there is a point of order, so please stop. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting as chair. Very distinguished colleagues. I'm rising pursuant to Order 8(3) of our rules to seek for extension of time to enable us to sit beyond 3 p.m. to be able to conclude on our proceedings that is ongoing. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, sitting as chair, I support the motion that pursuant to relevant sections of our rules that we extend the time beyond 3 o'clock to enable us conclude the activities of the day. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in support that time be extended beyond 3 p.m. to enable us conclude, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prof, continue.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Senate President, distinguished senators. The last point I was going to make is in relation to the amendment of 2018. And I dare say that most of the recommendations in the 2018 have been adopted, some in the 2022 Electoral Act. And some of our recommendations had even been improved upon by the 2022 Act. But the amendment of the Electoral Act will continue to be a continuous process, working with the Senate and the National Assembly. Thank you very much, sir, Your Excellency.
Thank you. Leader of the Senate, approach the chair. Distinguished colleagues, we haven't concluded the Senate screening yet. We haven't done the approvals, we haven't done the confirmations. Please sit back. Prof, as I promised you, I'll hand this paper over to you. What will be your reaction to a situation where the Supreme Court delivers a judgment on a matter and litigants go to the lower court to go and direct INEC to disobey Supreme Court judgment? Can you make use of the Electoral Act that empowers INEC to review results that have no foundation before declaration of the final result? This is coming from Senator Ome. I'll give it to you so that it will be part of your working document as you go. We don't expect any answer, but we have closed that session. The other question is distinguished Senator Plan. He's saying, will you consider adopting an insurance policy for ad hoc staff? Probably they largely use NYSC members because of insecurity and past experiences where most of them lost their lives in the course of conducting election in some parts of the country. Will you consider ensuring that you put in place an insurance policy for those ad hoc staff so that their death will not be in vain, and their families will probably get something from INEC, as it may never compensate for loss of life, but at least as a recognition of their sacrifice. This is coming from the Senior Senator of Plan. No, not now. It's for a part of his working document. From the Senior Senator Asukwekwe, most critical aspects in the electoral process is the collation of results. And the most sensitive collation is the collation of results across 176,974 polling units across 8,809 wards, which happens concurrently at the end of votings. What initiatives do you propose to deploy to safeguard the integrity of this collation process, which is very sensitive? Senator Asukwekwe. So, just before you depart, we realized there was a slight omission, that there was no word from your state or your senatorial district. So I'd like to give 1 minute for the senatorial district that you come from to thank the Senate for spending almost 3 hours with their son. And who is the senator from Kogi representing you? Do you know him? Who is that?
Distinguished Senator Sunday Karimi.
So Sunday
Karimi is already up.
Please thank the Senate for spending all this time.
Thank you, Mr. President. My colleagues, my name is Karimi Sunday Steve. I represent the people of the West. Mr. President, it's been a long day. What we are doing today is epoch history making. This is the first time, Mr. President, that someone from Kogi State and North Central Nigeria, somebody from North Central Nigeria